I'm just gonna wait a couple seconds to see if we get anybody to come on for story time. So we're gonna see if we get this to work. Hi, Erica. I think I'm just gonna start, or maybe I'll start at 9:44. So I think I figured it out. I'm just gonna do screen record on my phone. Hello. So this is story time. This is going to be different than my daily spreads, the card spreads that I have been doing. So originally I had started sharing my own journey. I did like a whole month straight a couple years ago where I showed how I take daily triggers, like any trigger, and go into myself and do shadow work. And I am constantly holding myself accountable. That's the whole idea of the spiritual path, is to be the ever observant and witnesser of your human experience. Being more spirit than human, you are in a constant state of experiencing, right? So when you're born, when you're birthed with 3 parts. You're birthed with an earth suit. I chose this earth suit. You are born with an intellect, which at the time of birth is completely clear, like a colander, like a spaghetti strainer. And then your soul. But your soul is who you really are. So anything that is changing is not you. So the physical self, constantly changing, not you. The environment, constantly changing, not you. Your emotions, constantly changing, not you. The soul is the ever infinite, never changing self. It's infinite. And so when you embody that spirit, you integrate the highest aspects of spirit into the human. The experiences that you have are very different than what most people would consider human experiences. And those are the things that I'm going to be sharing. Now, originally on social media, I wanted it to be a platform that I can show people I'm not superhuman. And I don't call myself a healer. I don't call myself a high priestess. I don't call myself a holy woman. I don't call myself a shaman. It is the people that I have helped that call me those things. And so I wanted to show myself as just as human as you, because as my human self, I am not above or beneath anyone. We're all walking the path. But as spirit, I always say I know my rank in spirit. So when I say that, I know that I am spiritual royalty. So what that means is that I have been at this for a very long time. And once you reach a certain plane of existence, you don't have to come back into the human experience anymore, which I have done. So I chose to be back at this time, and this is my last human inception. I chose to be back at this time in order to pay the karmic debts that need to be paid in this human experience, because I was part of the original peoples of this earth plane, and I was present during the corruption of the beings. And so there is a karmic debt to be paid in that. This is a culmination of all of my lives as Sherry. So I do have past life memory, pretty much of everything. I am constantly unraveling more depth to those past life memories, and I'll share those during this story time as well. But there was a vote that was made earlier, and Erica was part of that. So the story that I'm going to be sharing tonight is about a hawk, and it was a very special story. So this is what I will be sharing now. I will no longer be sharing my own healing journey, because hopefully that has inspired many. But what it has done erroneously is people who really aren't walking the talk, they look at me and say, wow, she's so transparent, but she must be a mess, because I'm constantly sharing those aspects of myself, because I keep the strongest and most powerful aspects of myself hidden. And so I am now going to share those aspects. Please know I am too lazy to lie. So I won't be sharing any embellished stories. I am never thinking before I speak. I am completely funneling divine energy through me. And so the accounts of these stories are exactly as they occurred. And so here we go. So the hawk. It was 2016 that I was still a medical practitioner. And I had decided to leave medicine, and I had put in my notice to leave medicine. And there's a local park here. It's called Kofa Park, Smucker's Park. And it has a beautiful sidewalk path that goes around the park, and one lap is a mile. So I would go there every day when I left the clinic, because I still did not have really a client base built up. The only people really that knew that I was psychic and I could do these beautiful divine things were those closest to me. And it's still the way that it was then, that 99% of people that come to me are word of mouth. People are referred to me. It's very rare that someone will find me just randomly, like on the internet or on social media, and then schedule with me. It's very, very common that people are referred to me. And I do have clients globally. So I'm very blessed, and I'm very grateful for that. But at that time, I really didn't have a client base yet. So I maximized that time to connect with spirit and nature. So every day, and it varied because I'm not a morning person, so it varied. Anywhere between like 11 and 1. I would go to this park, and I sometimes would walk a lap and then go and meditate. I would sit under a tree in the beautiful grass, because it's also like the only soft grass in Yuma County. It's hard to find soft green grass in the middle of the desert, but this patch of park has pretty soft grass. So I would go and I would meditate, and then after meditating, I would walk through the park, the grassy part, barefoot, and pick up trash. And that was my way to say thank you. That's my way of giving back. That's my way of connecting with Gaia. If you stay in a complete exchange with Gaia, it's important that way. So picking up trash is one of the things that I do to stay constantly in communion with her. So I would go every single day, meditate, pick up trash. Meditate, pick up trash. And so it was one day that I felt like I was being watched. And so I just looked up above me in the tree, and I saw the most beautiful red-tailed hawk. Now, red-tailed hawk medicine is very powerful. Brings the message of spiritual awakening, kundalini activation. Very powerful medicine the hawk carries. Now, my totem is a barn owl. And so the barn owl is a nocturnal bird. And every nocturnal animal, if it's your totem, there is a diurnal partner that will watch you in the day, that will guide you in the daylight hours if your totem is a nighttime animal, bird. And so the red-tailed hawk just happens to be the diurnal partner of the barn owl. So I was very grateful that he showed up also. And so I thanked him. And so the next day, came back, did the same thing, meditated, picked up trash, and he was there again. So I started to test him because I really felt like he was watching me. He was interested in me. So I moved to a different tree. And sure enough, he was above me in a limb. So the next day, I moved to yet another tree. And he followed me again. He followed me to the other tree and sat in the limb above me. So on this fourth day, I went and sat out in the open. No trees. And he was on a light pole close by, closer, because there were no trees around me. The light pole was the closest. So he just perched on the light pole. And I kind of giggled to myself and thought, this is so beautiful. Like, he is really interested in me. So the next day, I went back and sat back under that original tree. And I thought, I'm going to connect with him. I'm going to speak with him. I'm going to have this conversation with this beautiful hawk. So after meditation, I started connecting with him. I just opened my heart. And so how do you connect with an animal? You, first of all, have to be heart-centered. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like even cleaning spaces, cleansing people, you have to stay in your heart. You can't waver, not even for a second, because that removes the communication. So being completely heart-centered, I then just sent the message, thank you for finding me so interesting. You are so powerful and beautiful. And then I just sat. I sat in that heart-centered connection to him, and right away I heard an answer. You are powerful and beautiful. And so I was completely moved by the connection, and I started to cry. It made me so emotional. Now I have tons of barn owl feathers. Even when I travel, the barn owl, my totem, is constantly leaving me feathers when I travel. But I had yet to have a hawk feather. And so just so you know, there is a barn owl that is on my property, and he does watch my home, and he watches me when I'm out in my medicine wheel behind my house, and he has left me feathers as well. But hawks and barn owls don't share territory. They can tend to fight over nesting space. So I don't see hawks here on my land, but the barn owl I do. So I don't have any hawk feathers. Well, at the time I did not. So I just told him then, I would love a feather. That would be the most amazing gift. And he started to preen. So preening means that he's actually tugging at his feathers and cleaning his wings. And so I cried harder. And I thought right away, which is me retreating my heart, by the way, I right away thought, no one will believe this. Hello, beautiful sister. So I abandoned me. That's how that works, right? I was heart-centered, having this conversation with this amazing red-tailed hawk, and then right away I said, no one will believe this, right? And so he took off. He flew away, and I knew the error that I had committed right then. I was like, fuck. Okay. So I just took a deep breath, and I stood up. And again, so I'm always barefoot. I walk barefoot through the park, and I'm picking up trash. And I hear a voice. And he says, are you picking up trash? And I didn't even look up. I said, yes, I am. Still looking down, picking up trash. Still looking down, picking up trash. Just walking along, picking up trash. And he said, are you crying? And I said, yeah. Still looking down, I said, I promise you I'm not doing community service. And then I looked up. So when I looked up, for those of you who are not familiar with Yuma, this male was not like any male I had ever seen in Yuma, not even the surrounding area. He was an Adonis of a male, like chiseled out of divinity itself. He was shirtless, in shorts, and completely glowing. This man really had an unearthly glow about him. Completely chiseled, beautiful man. And I just kind of looked up and I smiled. I said, I'm not doing community service. And he says, can I walk with you? And I said, sure. And so we're walking together in the grass. And he said, so you just come here to pick up trash every day or what? And I said, I come here to meditate every day. And I pick up trash after I meditate. And I said, it's my way of saying thank you for using the space. And the trees appreciate it. And he said, I appreciate it. And I said, wow, well, thank you. So we're walking and continuing our conversation. And it still at that point had not hit me that this was anything spectacular or out of the ordinary. And so then he kind of turned around and looked at me and he said, you are so interesting. It was that moment that I started to feel, oh shit. And I said, wow, that's very interesting. And he said, it's interesting that I find you interesting. And I said, exactly that. Because literally just minutes prior, that's the conversation I had with the hawk. Thank you for finding me so interesting. So we're walking and he said, you know what? I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So in this particular park, there's a hill and then you lose sight of someone if they walk over the hill where the bathrooms are. So I said, I'm gonna just stay here and sit under the tree. So I sat under a tree. And I'm thinking like, wow, okay, so how do I know if this is actually the hawk or not, right? And so I'm just sitting there calm, just connecting with the grass. And actually I was running my hands through the grass and just sitting there. And then I felt like I was being watched again. I looked up and the hawk was above me and I was like, silly Sherry. So here I am again, abandoning myself. Silly Sherry, there's the hawk. And you're here thinking this man is the hawk? Come on, Sherry. So I was like, oh, wait till he sees the hawk though. So I had explained to him like why I was crying. I said, look, I was meditating and there was this beautiful hawk above me in the tree and I was connecting with him and it made me emotional. That's why I was crying. It was just beautiful. He was really beautiful. And he's like, oh, okay. So anyhow, I had already explained that I had seen a hawk and that's why I was crying. I wasn't crying because of picking up trash. Anyhow, so I start to see him coming over the hill and I'm excited now. So I'm like pointing up and he looks up of my head and he's going like this, like what? And I point again and I'm like all excited. I want him to see the hawk and he's going like this. So I look up and the hawk is gone. And I'm like, oh shit. Huh, that's interesting. So we're walking again and he says, I know this is gonna sound really crazy, but you're the most beautiful human I've ever seen. And I kind of chuckled and I was like, well, thank you. And he said, may I kiss you? And so, figure why not? Sure. And I'm single woman. This is a beautiful male. Sure. And when he kissed me, it was not only the most passionate kiss I had ever experienced, but it was coming from an empty body. This body was cold like a dead man and stiff like a dead man. And so I knew in that moment, immediately in that moment, that it was the hawk that I was actually kissing, not a man at all. And so this man, Mike, of course I'd never seen him again, but I knew it was the hawk that I had actually kissed in the park that day. And so that's the story of the shape-shifting hawk. And so these are the stories that I will be sharing maybe like once a week or whatever, but these are the kind of events that I get to experience in my life. And I feel like this is important to share for people to understand that, yes, the things that I have shared in the past and I was so transparent about, like doing the shadow work and showing you my own card pulls and sharing the trials that I have and everything, that's important for you to see that I do hold myself accountable and that I do actually walk the talk and that I am constantly holding myself accountable and doing the inner work. But because I do that, I also have very phenomenal and miraculous experiences in my human life. Things that are quite unhuman. And so this particular event that happened with the hawk was years ago, but like I said, I had never seen him again. But I had seen the hawk again, and I actually have video of it. So I'm going to try to dig up the video of that hawk. But he followed me around the park, and so I got him on top of that same light pole, and I just whispered. So he was quite, he was maybe like 12 feet away from me, and it's a really tall light pole. What are they, like 12 feet high too? And I just said really quiet, "Let me see you fly." And he did. He took off and then came back and buzzed me, but never became a man again. So I want to explain the difference between a shapeshifter and a skinwalker, because they both can shift into animals. So a shapeshifter can either spend most of their life as human or as animal. So like I believe Salome is a shapeshifter. I do not believe that Salome is actually a bird. If he were a pigeon, his eyes would be red, as I had been explained by a friend who rescues birds, but his eyes are black, and he's twice the size of a pigeon. He's amazing, and he does listen to me, by the way. Though, as much as I beg, he has not become a man yet. Anyhow, but so like I am a nagual. A nagual is someone who can shift into black jaguar, and I have, and I will eventually share that story as well. But we are spirit, we are souls, and we do reincarnate. So being able as a human to shift into an animal is the highest level of shaman. And so like I had mentioned in the beginning of story time, I am on my last life. So as Sherry, this is the culmination of all my lives. So all of the gifts, all of the beautiful experiences that I have had, all of the wisdom that I have acquired and experienced is now being able to be put to use as Sherry. And so that's one of them. Now, skinwalkers are spirit, but they do not reincarnate. So when they pass, when their human life is expired, their soul actually shatters into millions of fractals. It does not then reincarnate into another human, into another human, into another human. And they know this from birth. So, being that a lot of them are kind of on the fence. They're neither here nor there. They're neither for the light or for the dark. They're kind of like free agents. That's why so many people are afraid of them, because they can be dangerous for sure, which is another story that I will share in the future about my experience with a skinwalker that actually tracked me down, which was interesting. But so when they are free agents and kind of on the fence, they can tend to be very self-serving, and that makes them more dark, which means that they can be very deceitful, holding captives, and do harmful things in their experience, and also contribute to illusion, corruption, all of those things. But in the highest side, they actually have the ability to do great work. But like I said, they don't reincarnate. And so that leaves a lot of them very angry because of that. They feel almost like the forsaken beings. So does anyone have any questions? And I know I saw some things, because that's why I wanted to do this on live, to share. I know I saw Maria said something. She said, "Bravo, beautiful woman, love you for sharing." I love you, Maria. Thank you for saying I'm interesting. And beautiful Earth the Rose, thank you for saying that's divine. No, he never did leave me a feather, but I don't know if Janaea is still on this, but there was a time that she was doing the photo shoot for me, and I was laying on a tree. I've actually shared those pictures. And when I sat up after the pictures, there was a hawk feather at my feet. And this was not there when I laid down on the tree, but it was there when I sat up. So magically, this hawk feather was at my feet when I sat up. So I do have a hawk feather. I actually have multiple hawk feathers now, but this particular one is super magic. Because I had a witness. So Miss Janaea was actually there and said, "Where did that come from?" And I said, "You tell me." So Spirit has been very generous with me in the past couple years to have things witnessed. So there was actually a witness to that kiss in the park, by the way. Like I said, I had left the clinic. I was no longer a medical practitioner, and I did that voluntarily, by the way, and actually let my certifications go, because that was not my path, and I was not honoring myself by lying and hiding behind fancy piece of paper and letters behind my name. But anyhow, my receptionist, the old receptionist, saw me in the park that day. She said she was walking laps. So remember I said the sidewalk is a mile per lap. Well, she said she was walking laps that day. Anyway, she texted me that night and she said, "I'm very disappointed in you." And I said, "I don't understand." So I responded to her, "I don't understand what you're talking about." And she said, "I saw you in the park today." So right away I was like, "Whoa, what did you see?" And she said, "I'm disappointed. I thought you were a much classier woman than that." And I was like, I wasn't fucking. What is she talking about? And so I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I saw you kissing a man at the park." And I said, "I'm a single woman, and why would that be bad?" And I said, "But can you tell me what he looked like?" And so that's me, you know, still the human part of Sherry, like, "Oh my God, there was a witness. What did he look like?" And she's like, "He was young and very hot." So like age, I mean, the human that he shifted into is how I see spirit most of the time. They present like 30s, you know, that's when we're most, our physical self is like super healthy, right? So like me, I stopped aging in my 30s. So I do have wrinkles, but if you did blood work and things like that on my body, I'm very young. I'm aging super slow. And so yeah, like 30-ish, whatever. And that's also when I stopped experiencing really any kind of symptoms of anything. I haven't had a sore throat in forever. I don't get sick. So like even when my kids are sick, I don't get sick. Even being around clients that are sick, I don't get sick. Haven't worn a mask since this whole nonsense has started. I don't get sick. I don't get ill. And if something is occurring in my body, I always know it's either psychic attack or purging. Those are the only two disturbances that I ever have that are physical. So, but I did have a witness to that kiss, and that was phenomenal. And her name is Clara Butler. If you want to look her up on Facebook, ask her. Because there was a witness to that kiss. But he was not human. So Brittany says, thank you for sharing. You are beautiful. Thank you. Any other questions, y'all? Oh, Janaea said, sure did. I was like, wait, what? How'd I miss that? Thank you, Janaea. I'm glad you're still here. So yeah, Janaea was with me when this was left at my feet. That was a very special day, that photo shoot, because very healing for me, Janaea, to be witnessed that way. So, thank you, beautiful Earth to Rose, saying you go, mama. Thank you. Yeah. So if you're single and all of a sudden this Adonis of a male comes out of nowhere and says, you're the most beautiful human. And I was like, first of all, he called me human. He didn't call me a woman. He didn't say anything like that. He was just like, you're the most beautiful human. I was like, okay, may I kiss you? Sure. And I said it just like that, sure. Shrugged, said sure. And it was a very passionate kiss, but the body was hard and cold, just like a dead man. No tongue. Well, kind of a little bit, not deep. There was a little, but like a bird tongue. That was a bad joke, sorry. So, any other questions? Yeah, it was powerful. It was beautiful. And it was also validation that, yes, I was right to leave medicine. I was right to leave the clinic. I was right to do what I was doing. And yeah, so there'll be more phenomenal stories for me to share with you. But that's what this will be. So most of my lives will be this. There'll be story time. So I've got lots of stories. Right, bird joke. So thank you, everyone. Again, I appreciate so much you sharing your time and energy with me, your most valuable commodity. I so appreciate that. And thank you. Thank you for your awareness and witnessing and allowing me to share my story. I am sorry for any misalignment that I may have caused. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. And thank you for this opportunity to not only fix that which is out of alignment, but also to commune with you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. I love you.